We as consumers here in the United States don't really have a lot of demands from companies. In fact, our really only demand is just give us what you're advertising. Fill your product packaging with the product that you're telling us and don't try to mislead us. I feel like those are very simple demands that corporations continue to not meet. But here's a story that's really interesting to me. It's a story about Ronzoni pasta and their allegedly deceptive packaging. And I have Scott Hardy from Top Class Actions with me here to talk about this. And Scott, I have to say, when I first saw this story, saw the headline, Ronzoni Class Action says pasta box sizes are misleading. And the first thought I had was, well, why don't people just look at the, the weight of it? To me, it seems like they should have done that. But then when you actually start reading the story, you realize, oh, no, they're actually packaging, 12 ounces of pasta in the 16-ounce box, putting it on the shelf next to it so there's no difference. This is actually very deceptive on behalf of the company here. Lay this one out for us.
Yeah, I thought the same thing. I thought, this is pasta. What's the big deal? How is this an issue? And then it's exactly that. They go ahead and put the 16-ounce box of pasta right next to the 12-ounce box of pasta, and they look the same. But that is not the case. You should have a 16-ounce box of pasta and a much smaller box that is that 12-ounce box. But of course, Ronzoni knows that people are buying this thinking they're getting the same amount because they're not going to bother looking at the label. They're just going to pick up the same box, but think that they're making a healthier choice. Instead of buying my regular pasta, I'm going to get the gluten-free. I'm going to be a little healthier here, not knowing that they're getting shorted out of a significant percentage of food.
Right. I mean, we're talking about roughly 25%. So people got their boxes of pasta home, and most of them have the little small window in there so you can see what the pasta looks like, but you can't see through the whole packaging. So they don't know that this top 25% of the box is just totally empty. And as you and I have discussed plenty of times in the past, yes, you absolutely can have what they call slack fill if it serves a purpose. But in the case of pasta, dry pasta in a box, that slack fill has no purpose and is therefore, by law, not allowed. I mean, this is a pretty obvious one here.
Right. Ronzoni's popping up saying, hey, come on, we're just saving money. We're just using the same box. We buy a zillion of them. Why would we get a different box for different pasta? Well, that's an easy argument. Just, put the same amount of pasta in that box and you're fine. Don't go ahead and shortchange the amount of pasta and shortchange your customers who are trying to make in most cases, a healthier choice from their perspective. You're really shortchanging, like you said, 25%, and that's huge, and that makes a big difference to Ronzoni's profit margin and their profit that they're making every year as their consumers going home and pouring out that box and going, what? Where's all my pasta?
Well, what gets me about it, though, is that people are buying this, maybe it's for just them, maybe it's for their, whole family. And I think about me, I have a family of 6. So if I went in there and I bought this pasta box, brought it home, went to make it for my family, suddenly this isn't even enough to feed everyone. So had they put it in the smaller box so that you could see that it's not as much, I would have, if it was me, I would have said, I have to get 2 of these. So the company, instead of, people like me saying, I need to spend twice as much, just decided, let's just be dishonest about it. And technically we lose money on this. Like, that's what is so weird about it to me. If you'd have been honest about it, you're going to get a lot of people say, I better pick up a second one because it might not be enough to feed my family.
Right, exactly. You get a second one. Ronzoni's using less packaging, makes them more environmentally friendly. They can pitch that as a benefit, as a marketing gimmick, to get more people to buy it. And they're spending less on cardboard for their boxes. You would think there are a lot of benefits here that would just come from being honest with the consumer instead of shortchanging them with that box size.
I think the message you and I always try to hammer home, and I hope corporations are actually listening to this, and here it is. It's very simple. It never pays to be dishonest with your clients. And that goes, that goes for lawyers too. That goes for doctors. That goes for every single person on this planet. You're never going to win being dishonest. And in the case of corporations, probably going to cost you quite a bit of money in the long term. For more information about this issue, please follow the link in the description of this video and head to topclassactions.com. And while you're there, make sure you sign up for their weekly newsletter. Scott Hardy with Top Class Actions. Always a pleasure talking to you.
Great talking to you too, Farron. Thank you.
Every year, 1 million hernia surgeries are performed in the United States. Unfortunately, some mesh implants that are used in these surgeries have caused complications, including infection and organ damage that led to surgeries to correct those problems. If this has happened to you, learn more about the hernia mesh lawsuit by going online to hernia.law or call us for a free consultation about your legal rights.